Hey, Guitar Bus podcast. Today we've got Aaron Carrington all the way from Bath in England, and it's great to have you on the show. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Aaron Carrington. I'm a guitar teacher. I'm located in Bath in the southwest of the UK, and I run a guitar academy called Carrington Guitar Academy.
Nice. And I see you say Bath the right way rather than the London way where we add R in for some reason, Bath instead of Bath.
Well, people here say a multitude of ways. Well, I say a multitude of ways, either one of those two ways. So I think it's normal to use either one.
Yeah. So for some reason, my daughter says grass and Bath as well. Because my mum and dad are from North England, so I think they maybe picked that up somehow instead of speaking with the London accent.
Whereabouts are you located?
So we're in London, southwest London. Uh, have you? You were in London for a while, weren't you?
I was in London for a while. Yeah, I lived in a bunch of places. South, like Acton-ish, but that's a bit more
That's
central,
more
isn't it?
west, southwest, like Tooting
Tooting, yeah.
kind of area.
Um, Clapham.
Yeah, basically,
Yeah, I
yeah.
used to I used to teach in Clapham a couple of
Nice,
nights a week. I used to do some home visits while I was in London. Yeah.
brilliant, excellent. Yeah, I used to teach in people's homes for a good year, and which was good fun. And it was good exercise as well because I used to cycle around. But I could only really fit in 3 lessons a day because once you travelled round, it was like a few hours of travelling, and if depending on whether I did half an hour, it took a few hours to get round. Especially if you had like a 4 o'clock and then a 6 and then a 7 or something, and it's all. Um,
I was quite
so
lucky really with that. There were I did a Monday night and a Monday evening and a Tuesday evening. I guess in the between say 4 and 8, I could probably get 4 students.
yeah,
Um, just because the houses are all quite close together in that area and everybody sort of knows each other. And I
okay,
picked those students up randomly from a guy in McDonald's who was moving to Australia.
wow,
That's quite a funny story, actually. That
yeah,
happened to
go
me
for
twice.
it.
That exact scenario. So, it's taking me a while to do this now. So, when I finished uni, the only thing I could get hold of in terms of work was singing nursery rhymes to like young school kids.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I worked for a company called Fruity Tunes,
nice,
and they were located in Clapham.
yeah,
And so I used to go around doing that. And the the guy who taught me, his name was Pete,
yeah,
and he's the one who had the job before me, and then he was going to go into the office for a bit before moving to Australia.
yeah,
So I spoke to Pete. So I had his job singing to the kids and that sort of thing. And then he said, "Oh well, I also work in a school on a Fridays." I was like, "Oh okay." So he says, and then eventually, because he wasn't sure whether he was going to give it to me or someone else, and he was like, "Actually, you seem like you could do with this at the moment." So he was really nice, and he gave me this school, and that school I went on to work at for 5 years. That's
wow,
that's the
that's
power
amazing.
of yeah. It
Yeah,
is amazing, and I
yeah,
had a really great time there. It was a really great school,
mm,
Chobham Academy, and that's in East London.
yeah,
Anyway, so I ended up working there. And then the other guy, while I was working for Fruity Tunes, I met one of my competitors, and I saw that he had like a t-shirt with like a child's colourful logo on it and a guitar on his back. I was like, oh, I bet he does the same as me. And I got talking to him in Mackie D's, and yeah, he said he was moving to Australia and he was getting rid of loads of students. So like 2 people moved to Australia. And that's really, really, really weird, actually, because now that I think about it, the guitar program that I'm actually on at the moment is run by a guy who runs a guitar school in Australia, Melbourne
Wow.
Guitar Academy. So maybe I need to move there. I don't know.
Is it Michael Gumley?
That's the guy. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, we've done a bit of work with him, um, and using the Guitar Ninjas method. Are you using his guitar method?
I'm not using Guitar Ninjas. No, I'm stubbornly staying away just for now to see if I can figure it out by myself, so I don't have to spend them any more money. But probably maybe I'll end up doing it and then just using it for a while, and then once I've learned how it all works, develop my own or something like that. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, the guy's very switched on when it comes to all of this kind of guitar teaching and running guitar businesses and schools and things. So it's a really good thing to be a part of his program.
Yeah, yeah.
I say.
So you part of the top music or Six Figure?
Six figure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, I'm gonna be going to the calls. You go on the calls on Thursdays, is that?
Yeah, whichever one line. Yeah, Thursday's the one that lines up with the UK. The Tuesday one's like midnight or something. Just I'm gone by then. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, super switched on. So yeah, the Guitar Ninjas method has like 9 levels, which is all systematized. I was doing G4 guitar method before, which was really good as well. That's another Aussie guy. I think guitar is really big in Australia. And so there's a lot of people wanting to learn guitar. I think there's a lot of people in the UK who want to learn as well. I feel like down there it's slightly more. When you look at, it's a little bit depressing, but if you look at Google Trends, piano has always kind of stayed quite high over the past. I think the earliest you can go to is 2004, but with guitar, it's going down, which is not ideal.
it's just interesting
But
because
yeah,
oh,
even
go
though
on, you finish if you.
yeah, I was just going to say, like, even though the Google Trend seems to be going down, there's always guitar students out there. There's always someone who calls and says, I saw your ad. I've had this guitar sitting in the corner of my room, and I just want to learn how to play now. I'm 45 or whatever. Or you get someone who's like, I've been learning on YouTube. I'm just stuck after a year, and they want to learn. There's always a mum or a dad who wants to get their kid in. There's always someone, So I just don't quite understand why the trend is going down so low when there's always.
Well, a similar. You
around.
say a guy who had it in his corner, and I was out flyering yesterday morning. I just met a random delivery guy who was going to the same door, and I got chatting to him, and actually chatted to him for a good 5 minutes, and eventually he asked me for the flyer. He says, "Oh, actually, I might pick this up again. Can I take one of those?" Which is really really nice. People are really interested in guitar, like.
Yeah.
But when I'm out busking, you see people. I mean, I go out and I play. I mean, I play and sing, but a lot of the stuff I do has guitar solos in it. I like to do electric guitar solos, as opposed to say doing something that like Mike Dawes does with all the acoustic tapping. I love that stuff. It's just not what I do, and you can only focus on so much.
Yeah,
So I go out and I play solos, and people are very receptive to it,
Mm.
and they'll stand and they'll watch and they'll clap, and so yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't quite understand why the Google trend is going down. Maybe that has something to do with the kind of popular music we're getting here in the UK on the radio, and so people aren't associating the guitar with anything that's massively popular here, and maybe that's why they're not picking it up. Maybe they're gearing themselves more towards electronic music. But
Yeah.
I think once you show someone that their music can be played on a guitar and sound cool,
Yeah, exactly.
maybe the interest goes from there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's still a lot of big guitar players out there. And I know not everyone loves Ed Sheeran, but he's still around and he's still always got the acoustic guitar out there in front.
Yeah.
So that's, I've had a lot of people come in from that and say, oh, well, I want to learn an Ed Sheeran song, which is fine. The other one that's more recent, especially for kids, is that film Sing. There's a little hedgehog in Sing who plays electric guitar, and so they'll come in, they say, oh, I want to learn this. I'm like, oh, where did you hear this? And they'll say, oh, I heard it from the movie Sing.
I've not seen that. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, so I mean, it's got some really good voice actors in it. So it's Matthew McConaughey and a whole host of other guys, and it's about a koala who runs a theater, and he's going out of business, and the banks are asking for to close up shop and get the money back for the loans and whatever, and he wants to put on the biggest show ever, so he puts out a flyer for a music competition, a singing competition or whatever, a band, whatever. and then that goes around town, and then all these animals come to try and sing, and he tries to put a show on. That's the crux of it. I won't spoil the storyline, but
Oh, but it sounds right on my street.
yeah, yeah.
So
But
it's a bit of a kids' film, is it?
yeah. I mean, it's
But
it's an animation kids film. But the point I was thinking about was that the kids these days, I mean, when I was growing up, probably same as you, started off with like radio. You just listened to radio all the time, and tapes kind of came along, and then mini discs, CDs.
yes, yeah. I
That
had a mini disc player.
yeah, same. And then I remember having my first ever MP3 player, 16 megabytes. I think it fitted 5 songs on or something. Um,
It's
but
crazy, isn't it?
and then now it's like water. You just pay a subscription, you get everything on tap. So yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is that the way music is consumed these days, especially for the next generations, is all through video games, YouTube, random memes, all of that kind of stuff, and those 1 minute, short TikTok videos and whatever.
Yeah, it definitely has changed, and I think because it's so easy and accessible, it's sort of become a little bit devalued in some ways. But I think that's where guitar teachers can hold the fort, if you like, is learn to be a good teacher and then charge what you're worth and
Yeah,
keep music as a high value thing. Don't make it so no one can do it or afford it. But the thing is, there are so many free resources anyway that anyone can get into it now. I mean, of course, if you're going to start learning on YouTube and try to persist that way, it's gonna have roadblocks eventually, because you're just not going to be able to. You don't know what you don't know. That's
yeah.
kind of the key there. But
Well, that's it. Yeah,
yeah, I think guitar teachers would do well to value what they do, and as well as that, anyone who's looking for lessons, really, if you want, you can find guitar lessons for 15 or 20 pounds an hour, but then maybe they're not going to be the best quality ones. Or
yeah,
it could be some young guys just looking to get some experience, which is also fair enough.
yeah.
But it depends what you want as a customer as well. But
Yeah,
yeah.
and I sometimes look at my students and I think, what's the big motivation? Because for me, I wanted to play like Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Page and whatever. Still not quite there, but I'll get there eventually. But yeah, and I had this massive drive, and I just wouldn't put the guitar down. Every day I was playing guitar. When I get home, I play all the time. But for a lot of people, they just come and they grab the lessons, and they don't have that big vision and that big drive
Mm.
to be the best or to be a professional player or whatever they want to be. They just want to kind of play as a little hobby.
Yeah, and that's a valid approach as well.
Yeah,
But even if it is just a bit of a hobby, you can still there's still levels to that. You can still be. I mean, I've got a friend here in Bath, and he's a pretty good fingerstyle player. But
yeah,
he works in IT, and he's happy doing all that. He
yeah,
doesn't he doesn't necessarily have this. Um, he doesn't crave the spotlight, so to speak. That's the right
yeah.
phrase. Um,
We're just a bunch of attention seekers, aren't we?
yeah, I think that's all it really is. We're just egotistical. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I was watching the Baz Luhrmann Elvis film, the
I
one
haven't seen that yet.
I think it was released last year, but I don't know if you know the full story. I won't tell you everything, but one of the main things was by the end there was the money issue where his manager needed the money because he was in a lot of debt, gambling debt. So he kind of forced Elvis to play continually, um, to get these massive loads of money every year. It's the residency at this Vegas hotel. But one of the main things was that Elvis just craved that spotlight the whole time. He didn't feel alive unless he was on stage, which is interesting. I've never really seen that. It's kind of obvious now, but yeah, it was an interesting point that was kind of made at the end. Yeah,
that he craved the spotlight, and he didn't feel alive unless he was.
Exactly, and that's where all the pill popping came in.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing. I mean, I don't know how old Elvis was when he actually started performing. Do you know? Does it say anything about how old he was when he started singing and performing and that sort of thing?
I don't know. No, I can Google it though if you want.
I guess if you're doing it for such a long period of time, that being on stage becomes your benchmark for almost for normal, you know,
Yeah,
and everything else is going to kind of seem quite mundane.
yeah,
But I would also say that, you know, psychologically there was probably other things happening and going on underneath it all.
yeah,
Sort of
definitely.
made him that way, and and so he had this other stuff going on in his life, and then he would go on stage, and that would become his outlet,
Yes,
and
exactly.
that's where he feels alive. And it's actually quite difficult not to feel alive when you're performing on stage, because it's such an unusual situation for a human being to be in.
Yeah,
Reminds me of an exercise we did in college. You know, when I talk about an unusual situation, I mean the fact that you've got X amount of people all staring at you. You know, that's unusual. If you were a caveman and you came out of your cave early one morning and you were confronted with 10 people just looking at you,
yeah.
you know, where there'd normally just be hills and sunshine and, you know, all glorious things. You know, you'd be scared. You'd be a threat, right?
Yeah,
And to the college thing, so we had a guy come in college, and he was a session musician. He'd been doing it for years, toured the world, etc., etc. And he went around the entire room. We're in this computer room, all sat at these Windows computers, and he got everybody else to stare at one person, and he went around each person and did the same exercise. And you know, I was a little bit older when I went to music college. I started about 22, so I just volunteered and went first. I was like, yeah, it's fine. But it's suddenly you become the center of attention, and it's like, and you realize just how weird it is to have lots of people looking at you.
yeah,
The only difference is when you're in a musical scenario, it's now expected that that's going to happen, so that makes it a little less unusual. But you've still got that survival element there, which is like, all these people are looking at me.
yeah. I better do something.
I better do something, yeah.
Yeah,
And so, I guess then it becomes about fight or flight. It's like, am I gonna fight this, or am I gonna run away? And Elvis obviously got used to fighting it and sort of got better and better and better as a performer, and so
yeah,
the high gets higher and higher, perhaps.
yeah,
And then he's got to try and counterbalance that with a normal life somehow.
yeah. Exactly. It must be so strange. I remember Sean Connery said when he became Bond, he had people climbing over his wall to come and see him in his house. They literally jump over its wall, get ladders, and just like, yeah, it's just absolute madness. It says that Elvis's first kind of performance was when he was 10, but I don't know how big a show that was. The Mississippi Alabama Fair and Dairy Show.
Okay, well, that's really, really young
Yeah,
to perform.
yeah,
And I mean, I can only assume that he did it regularly-ish from that point onwards.
yeah.
I mean, I was 12 when I first performed, and I
Mm.
did a karaoke singing Michael Jackson and Bryan Adams.
Nice.
And I still love those two artists now.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then my next live performance wasn't until I was 18.
Mm.
So I didn't pick up a guitar till I was 14. Did my first live performance at 18. I was terrified. I was awful with regards to nerves when I started gigging
Mm. Same.
for quite a number of years. Just so yeah, I used to get flustered, and like I couldn't plug my lead in my amp because I couldn't remember where it was because I was too concentrating on what I was about to do. You know.
Yeah,
But
I always just stare. I was always staring at the guitar like this. Luckily, I didn't. I mean, my first performance, I think I was 16, and I did like a medley. It was like System of the Down and Radiohead Lucky. I did like a Radiohead Lucky as the main bit, but then there was a little System of the Down breakdown thing. I don't know why I did that, but I did anyway. um, but yeah, I had a couple of whiskeys before I went on. I know I was 16, but still, I was
Well,
shaking. Yeah.
it, I remember the first time. So that was like when I first started playing guitar on stage, and then I started doing backing vocals,
Mm,
and then it was when I was probably maybe it was a year or two later I actually sang on stage for the first time,
yeah.
and I think the first song I think it was Valerie.
Nice. Great song. A lot of
Yeah,
energy.
I think it was Valerie, and I also did Wanted Dead or Alive at some point, which looking back would have sounded terrible. But I did Valerie. But the point about it, I had like 4 beers when I used to drink. I don't drink anymore, but
Yeah.
yeah, I was pretty. I mean, four. I'm sort of person. If I drink 2 pints, I'm like, woo! So I'd had four at that point. Got up on stage, sang, and at that when you're in that mindset, once you've sang on stage, it's like I could do anything.
Can fly.
and yeah, exactly. Until the next day.
Yeah, exactly. And the head starts pounding. Yeah, I'm similar to you. I don't really drink very often, and if I do, I'll make it a shandy. So I'll mix lemonade and beer. So then if I have two, then it's like having one basically. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's a bit softer. And also, it's very expensive to drink these days, unless you're drinking at home with cans. But then I don't drink at home, so because I got two kids, it's no point waking up with a headache.
yeah. I
No
just
point.
I got to sort of my mid 20s and I just started getting on with it. It
Yeah.
just didn't wasn't fun anymore. And again, I had maybe 5, 6, 7 years where I drink a little bit here and there, but every time I drank, I just regretted it. Just like this isn't working for me.
Yeah.
Even in Dubai last year, I was out living in Dubai playing music, and I had one night I think where I got drunk. That was a good fun night, but the next day, oh my god, it was awful. I just didn't enjoy myself. It's like I know a hangover is not meant to be enjoyable, but I was like, it's just not worth it. It's just not
Yeah,
worth
yeah,
this at all.
yeah,
For me.
exactly. Yeah, you have to do some next ninja tactics just to not get a hangover.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's ridiculous. So yeah, tell us a bit more about Dubai. Was that were you on a cruise ship, or did you have a residency? You know,
Yeah, it was
how
a
long?
residency. So I did 6 months in Dubai, 2 months in Bahrain. So during COVID in March 2021,
Yeah,
I'd been living in London for 9 years, and I wanted to get out.
yeah,
And was getting a bit tired of London, that sort of thing,
yeah,
as people do. And I just craved the countryside, and I miss grass and all those kind of things.
yeah,
So moved out to Bath. My dad said, "Come and live with me for a bit," and all that kind of thing. Okay, so started setting up in Bath. Managed to get a couple of students and that kind of thing, working for Bristol Beacon, or Bristol Plays Music as they used to be called,
yeah,
and also picked up some wedding gigs and things. And when I was out on wedding gigs twice, I played with a bass player called Jack, and Jack had been out to Dubai for years and years. He's been doing it for about 7 or 8 years now. He's actually in Bahrain at the moment. Absolutely amazing bass player. He's just one of these guys. You just see someone who looks like they're making no effort whatsoever, but gets everything right and sounds amazing. He's one of those. Anyway, so played a couple of weddings with Jack, and he got in touch with me a few months later, just out of the blue, and said, "Oh, we're going to Dubai. I remember talking about this with you. Did you fancy it?" I was like, "Okay." And so there were two bands going out, Jack's band and another band, and the other band needed a guitarist. So I joined that band called the Heavies, and we played in a venue in Dubai for 6 months. So we did 3 months before Ramadan. So then we took April off, and we did another 3 months. And it's called Nel Gwyn. And Nel Gwyn was inside of Marina Byblos Hotel. And yeah, I really cut my teeth there, actually, even
really,
after 21 years of playing. Yeah,
yeah,
because you're doing 6 nights a week, 3 hours a night,
yeah,
and your repertoire grows
yeah,
a lot. I go back to Jack again, but people who've been doing it for as long as he has, their repertoire is just, it's in the 500, 600, 700 off the top of your head, that kind of,
yeah,
when you're
yeah,
playing that often, it's amazing. But for me, personally, it was great to expand my repertoire. It was quite intense, but also my performance as well.
yeah,
I got a lot of advice and some more confidence about how to perform. You know, so often nowadays I'll be lifting the guitar up and playing like this, and
Yeah.
just because it's what I do now, just because of that experience. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
also teaches you about your voice, because there were three singers in the band. There was a female lead singer, Hannah, and then there was a keyboard player and singer, Joe, and then there was me also playing guitar and singing. So I'd probably be singing 3 or 4 songs a set, so that translates into about 16, maybe 20 songs a night, something like that, if we're doing requests as well.
Yeah. Amazing.
Maybe 16, 15, 16 songs a night.
Yeah.
So it teaches you about your voice as well, because your
Mm.
voice goes, and you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and you got to learn how to deal with it. You learn what your, I don't know, quote unquote real range is.
Yeah. Exactly.
If you're doing it once or twice a week, you can just belt these high notes out and
Yeah.
think nothing of it, and you'll recover for the week after. But if you're doing it 6 nights a week, you got to be a little bit more tactful about how you arrange that.
Yeah. Exactly. And even Adele, she had to stop performing. She had surgery on her larynx because she was hitting those high notes so consistently.
That's it. Yeah. There is there's singing high, and then there's maintaining high notes.
Yeah.
As in something like here's a classic example of a function song. You know, if you take Mr. Brightside by the Killers, on the face of it, like, the melody's not hard to sing or anything, but it just stays in this consistently difficult place all the way through the song.
Yeah.
And so by the end of it, you're like, it's just, yeah, so. Whereas if you're just
Yeah.
bouncing off high notes, then it's not so bad.
Yeah. 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 A lot of these singers have, very, very good voices. So then that takes you. So then you came back to Bath, and then you set up your guitar school there. And what's the name of your guitar school in Bath?
So it's Carrington Guitar Academy.
Yeah, nice.
My name is Aaron Carrington, and I looked at picking a name, and I was going to call it Bath this and Bath that and Somerset this, and I was like, well, these are already taken. And although my actual name doesn't relate to the location, or it doesn't relate to guitar at all, it's unique in the sense that it's my name, and there's not that many Carringtons knocking about, at least not in the teaching world, the guitar teaching world. So that was kind of how I justified calling it that. It is a bit weird to get used to having something as your own name, but I think other people just don't really even care. They're just like,
Yeah.
oh, this guy does guitar lessons, so.
Yeah, exactly. And also, if you're building a personal brand, over the years, Carrington will just keep coming up, and people are like, oh yeah, I remember. It's like Marty Schwartz. As soon as you say Marty Schwartz, you just know who it is.
It's Schwartz, Marty Schwartz. Hey guys.
And there's and Justin Sandico and
Yeah.
Andy Guitar. I assume his second name's Guitar, but
Andy Guitar. This week we're going to put our fingers on this fret here, and then he's going to listen to this one day. I think, who's this chump? Did an impression on me. I don't sound anything like that. Anyway.
He's done so well. All those guys just
they have done amazingly.
Consistent video output for 10, 15 years now.
That's not easy to do. I mean, just on a kind of a working level, it's not easy to do, and also because you do have to sort of churn out some of the same stuff again and again. It comes back to this idea of being repetitive, but it's not repetitive to your audience. It's only repetitive to you,
Yeah.
So yeah, hats off to those guys they've done really well out of doing the YouTubing and the courses and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's genius. But yeah, consistency is very difficult. I've found consistency very tricky. I get a bit of entrepreneurial ADHD where I'm just like, oh, that shiny thing looks great. Oh, that shiny thing looks great. Let's try this. Let's try that. So I've been putting my fingers in all these different things, and I feel like eventually I'll kind of find the thing that I'm really content with doing regularly. We'll get there in the end.
Yeah, I think part of it is when you're doing things like this, obviously you do have to kind of have your limitations and say, well, I'm going to do this and this rather than this, and this, and see what takes off. It's like, you do want to focus on a select area of things.
Yeah.
But also it's lasting long enough as well. Yeah. I probably have a monthly crisis, so And I have my monthly crisis. I think I've just gotten over one where I have to just remind myself. I say, right, why? Well, I joined this six-figure guitar teacher program on the December the 19th, what it was. So I've actually been doing it 3 months to the day almost.
Yeah.
3 months. And I'm like, is that all you've got, Aaron? Is that all you've got? 3 months before you start getting in your own head about why this isn't happening and that's not happening.
Yeah.
It's like, what about 6 months? What about 3 years? And then I'll
Yeah.
start talking myself around. I'm like, okay, I get it. All right. And the realistic side of me kicks in and tells me to stop being a wuss.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know, what's the word? It's like a mental game, battle. It's a war. You know, there's a famous rap line which says there's a war going on outside, no one's safe from, and it's just that if there's no war out there, there's always a little war in your head where you're just constantly having a resistance. You know,
I think it's human nature, isn't it,
yeah,
to
human
fight on
nature,
some level.
wrestling, wrestling
Yeah,
is you have to win the wrestle.
you do.
Alex Harmozy said, "Do you want to be the prey or the predator?" That's
Yeah, he's very. Yeah, I do watch some of his videos. He's got some great advice though. It's quite motivating. I mean that guy's what's he earning, like tens and tens of millions every year or whatever.
yeah. He's trying to build a $1 billion portfolio. So I don't know
Amazing.
where he is on the chart, but I assume he's getting there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, how, $1 billion, why
Yes.
not? If you can do it.
Yeah,
But I watched one of his videos when I was thinking about flyers, because I'll go out and say, let's say I do 1,000 flyers in a week or something like that,
yeah,
and I'm like, oh, where's the phone calls? And then he puts it into perspective, and he says, with businesses who are doing 5,000 flyers a day, or 50,000 a month, or just these
yeah,
large scale operations, and you're like, okay, well, that's what it takes.
yeah,
So then that puts into perspective where you are on the chain and gives you a much more realistic expectation.
yeah,
Or the best way to really approach it is to kind of try to enjoy the process, but not really expect anything. And if something does happen, then great, it's a bonus.
yeah,
And
exactly.
that way you're not focusing on what you've just did and what you expect from it. You're like, what's the next thing I need to get on with
Yeah,
that might help
exactly.
me?
Yeah, I mean, G4 said you should get one solid inquiry per 1,000 flyers, which, was quite depressing to think about. While I was,
Yeah, I've
I'd,
heard similar numbers. Two to three inquiries per thousand is very, very good.
yeah,
And if you can get past that, maybe you know that maybe you've hit on something.
but it costs, I don't know how much it costs to print 1,000 flyers, but it's not that much, maybe
No, I think I printed
£100.
1,000. Less than that. I
Yeah,
think more like
less.
40 quid or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. So
Quite
then,
cost effective.
yeah, exactly. And then, so if you put 1 month's work in, let's say you do 4,000 flyers, you get, even if you just get one student, um, if they stay with you for 2 months, you're in profit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which, if you think of it that way, but obviously while you're walking around in ones and twos, they yeah, where
Yeah.
eventually you can hire someone to do it. You could ask someone, do you want to get paid for walking, and then they can rip off a little tab and give you a call, and you can pay them, something.
Yeah, that's something I do want to move on to because,
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I did flying yesterday and I quite enjoyed it because it was quite sunny. But Bath is full of hills, and oh man, it's not only just a hill; it's the 20 steps up to the pathway that leads to the door.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you've already done like you do 10 houses and you've done 10 minutes of like cardio.
yeah, yeah,
Yesterday was a new one. I managed to put my finger a little bit too far into the letterbox. I don't know if this goes out in video form, but
yeah.
see where a
Ouch.
dog's nabbed my finger there.
Are you serious? Oh my
Yeah, as I put my flyer in the door, I obviously put my finger too far in, and it just got me on both sides.
God.
Started bleeding. And I had to knock the door at a woman. I said, "Your dog just bit me. Would you mind helping me clean up?" She said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She was really apologetic.
Yeah, yeah,
And you sort of thought about it for a minute, and I thought, well, it's an occupational hazard, really. I mean, dogs are going to defend their territory.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
just what they do. And you poke your finger in the wrong letterbox, then it's probably inevitable. So I just adjusted my tactic. I just sort of folded it, because the problem I was having is I couldn't get through the bristles, because the flyer is not a newspaper that's big and just pushes through. It's a flimsy flyer, so I had to like fold it into a bit of a semicircle maybe, and then try and get through the bristles that way. Or some of them are so stubborn, these letterboxes, damn letterboxes. You have to double up the actual double the flyer up itself. So you got two flyers, and then fold that, and then pop them through that way. So just thinking of ways around it.
Yeah, I would do the same as you. I just used to shove my hand right in. So it must look so weird. Someone was on the other side, suddenly this hand just appeared. And yeah, I remember, I think when I was flying, I just stuck headphones in. That was the only way I got through the flying. I just used to listen to business books. And
I've not talked extensively with someone else about the flying experience. It's nice to know that someone else hates it the way I do. I think hate's maybe a strong word, but I'm trying to teach myself to like it. I sort of have this, again, it's another one of these psychological battles. I go, no, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to be the best damn flyer deliverer there is. There's not much scope in there, but the way to do it is just to go out there and deliver as many as you can. And I find it, well, do you ever set like a time limit, or do you just go out and deliver a certain amount?
Yeah, it just depends on the day, because on the sunny days it's fine, and if you've got energy. But if you're not feeling like full of energy that day, then I'm trudging around. So I just go until I can't walk anymore, basically. or I just try and hit a certain, little chunk of area. I'll say 5 streets, and then I'll see how I'm feeling, and then I'll do the next 5.
I do get excited when I find houses that are all really close together and I can literally just hop from one door to the next. That's just so satisfying. And also, like, there's some areas I discovered yesterday. It was amazing. There was like a building of apartments. I'm like, how am I going to get in there? Don't need to, because all 9 letterboxes are just there in a row. And you're like, incredible. I even found my way into excuse me, a student building, and there must have been 40. So like, buff, every single one.
Nice.
Like, this is amazing. This beats going up people's long driveways and walking up hills. It really took the edge off,
The other thing I hadn't thought about, which is what some of the windscreen washer guys do, is put it in car windscreen wipers.
Yes, I've done that once when I couldn't find a letterbox.
Yeah, I just don't know. It'd be interesting to analyze the time saved and versus the inquiries that come in, maybe.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I suppose that
might
the
get
car is parked a little bit back away from the door, and I suppose even just like 6 footsteps between the car and the door. If you do that 100 times, maybe you're saving sort of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. I don't know.
So,
and it all matters. It all mounts
up.
Over
marginal gains. Yeah. Awesome. So you've got your Carrington Guitar Academy in Bath. Do you have any like online? I saw you had like a lead guitar solo training or something on your site.
Yeah. So what I've got is a beginner program and what I call fretboard freedom. Now on the homepage, for some reason I've called it Learn to Solo, but I need to switch that up and call it fretboard freedom. Nice. So the beginner program is pretty self-explanatory. It's for people who haven't been playing that long or haven't played at all.
Yeah.
And the fretboard freedom program is for people who want to learn their way around the fretboard. Yeah. Learn what the notes are, learn how to find any chord, any bar chord, whatever. Just because I think I hear this quite a bit from guitarists who are kind of intermediate level, been playing for a while, but they're like, I just don't really know where I am. I'm not sure where I am on the instrument. I don't know how to find this chord or that chord, and they can play some good stuff, but they're just not sure what's going on entirely. So that's what fretboard freedom is for.
Yeah. And
both of them are group lesson programs. So 4 to 6 people in a room with me. Nice. Why wouldn't you want to do that? And just trying to learn from each other as well as learn from me. So one of the big advantages I think with groups is that, let's say for example you're somebody who wants to learn to play to an audience at some point. You want to conquer your fear of playing an open mic. and you want to learn to sing a few songs. Well, if you've only ever done sort of one-to-one stuff, then you might have only ever played in front of your teacher. But if in the progress of your learning you've been part of a group, and the group's helping spur you on, give you confidence, and you can see other people who are having the similar issues to you, but you can also see how they're slowly conquering those issues, then I think it's just a really good situation for a student to be in. And I wish that I'd have had like a group, a guitar group. I wouldn't. Yeah, the number 4 to 6 for me feels like the right kind of number, because you still have plenty of time to give people that one-to-one time on specific things that they want to know, whilst also getting the benefits of the group as well.
Perfect.
So both of those are group lesson programs, but I also teach online a little bit at the moment. I think once the groups start to become more, then maybe the online thing might be the first thing to go. But
I think I got Zoom fatigue.
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Sorry, the internet just jumped there.
Have you tried? I did it.
Yeah.
Have you tried using Rock Out Loud?
I haven't. I have heard of it, but I will.
I'd absolutely recommend giving that a blast. It does change the dynamic of online lessons quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sound quality is much better, but you've got to use headphones or else you get all of this. I think what Zoom does is, quite rightly, because it's a conferencing software, it suppresses out all of the background noise, and you can only hear the voice.
Yeah.
Whereas Rock Out Loud lets everything through.
Yeah.
But also, so you have to use headphones to stop all of that feedback loop happening and whatever. And it sounds horrible when you don't use the headphones. So yeah, just make sure you use headphones. But once you've got the headphones and that kind of thing set up, the sound quality is amazing, and the lag is virtually non-existent. So you can actually jam with your students as well online, which is interesting to know. And they've got 2 programs. They've got a single instrument program, which is $10 a month, and then a multiple instrument program, which is like $14 a month.
Nice.
And you can also click on the screen and bring up chords. So you click. There's a very limited amount you can put up, but you've got all your basic open chords and some bar chords and stuff. And you could select, say, if they want to learn B minor, D minor, and E, and then they'll appear on your student's screen, just like pretty quickly. And then also you can send across PDFs in real time. So like, say for instance, you get to the end of the lesson, then you have to attach everything in an email. You can just do that within the lesson, which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyone out there, give that a blast. It's I don't know why it hasn't really taken off. Like, their YouTube subscriber count at the moment is only less than 700. Yeah. But I'm like, no, this is a great bit of software.
Yeah.
Using it.
Yeah. Awesome. So what's your next steps for the future? Or sorry, what's one that you've already spoken about, that kind of stuff. So what's one, so for a new guitar teacher or someone who's, stuck in a rut, what's one piece of advice that you'd give yourself going back?
One piece of advice I'd give myself. Well, I'll give a broad piece of advice and then like a specific piece of advice. So the first one is learn to sell, learn about business, and value what you do.
Yeah.
Value music just generally. Don't be like, oh, well, people won't pay this and people won't pay that. You'd be surprised at what people will pay.
Yeah.
As long as you're, providing a good value service.
Yeah.
If you're going to do your guitar lessons, well, think about doing some kind of online video library on your website that they can access as part of their membership or whatever.
Yeah.
So that'll be the first thing. Value what you do and learn about business, learn how to market. And as for like a specific piece of marketing advice, I would say, if you're going to advertise yourself, please don't say you play in all styles, because if you think about it, you probably don't. And the example I like to give, right, is take someone like Guthrie Govan, probably widely considered by guitarists as probably the best, if not one of the best and most versatile guitarists on the face of the planet. But have you ever seen him pick up a nylon string classical and do finger picking? So he doesn't play in all styles. Now, I'm not saying that Guthrie isn't capable of that. Maybe he is. Maybe he's a secret bedroom classical guitarist. But as a means of emphasizing my point, doesn't really play in all styles. He just plays in most of them very, very well. But like, so if you were to, instead, what you could say is, I'm the rock and blues guy. I play rock and I play blues, and then suddenly you're targeting someone, and rock and blues players go, oh, I want to learn rock and blues, and that way you might get a student out of it. So yeah, there's a couple of pieces of advice that if I could go back, probably even 5 years, I'd even less than that actually, and say to myself, I'd probably say those things. And don't let money be the reason you don't dive into some kind of self-development. I mean, do your due diligence, investigate whoever's running the courses that you're interested in, who can teach you how to run a guitar teaching business. You know, don't just go on any old thing, because there are scams and whatever on the internet that you've got to be wary and careful of. But when you feel confident, dive into it and dive in head first.
Yeah, exactly. And find someone who's ahead of you so that you can learn the tricks of the trade.
Absolutely. Same principle of finding a teacher. I mean, I would still take guitar lessons now. There are loads of teachers who I would go and have lessons with, because you know, unless I'm actually the best guitarist in the world, which pretty unlikely that's ever going to be the case.
Well, my issue is that I'll learn something and then I'll learn all these new things, and then I still have to go back and revise the old stuff, and you have to keep going round in a circle. I'm still playing the pentatonic scale every week.
Yeah.
Still teaching, you know, that basic shape. And people are like, oh, the students like, oh, how do you play it that fast? And I was like, just play it 20,000 times and you'll get really good at
it. No, whenever I pick up the guitar, it just pentatonic stuff just comes out, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Before I was jamming in the key of A before I came. Hopefully you'll be able to hear this guitar. It's plugged into the desk.
Yeah.
It just comes out like it's just all pentatonic ideas, you know, and it's mostly shape 1. I mean, this was kind of shape 4 stuff, but it's just very guitar-y. When people think of guitars, or at least guitar solos, they're thinking of the pentatonic scale, you know.
Yeah.
And so if sometimes they'll hear a major scale on a guitar and they don't really switch on, I feel. But as soon as you play a pentatonic scale, oh, it's a guitar. It's such a close association.
It's been used for everything, hasn't it, on guitar?
Yeah.
It's a versatile scale as well, so
it's actually the best one.
Right, well, I appreciate your time today, Aaron. I hope the listeners have enjoyed everything you shared today, and we hope to see you in the next one.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Rich. That was really good. Really enjoyed that.
Awesome. Well, take care, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Take care.
Bye. See you, mate. Bye.